Welcome back to another powerful episode of The Power of Progression. I'm your host, John Marone. I am so excited to introduce this phenomenal human being to you. For those of you who already know him, you're going to be excited to hear this podcast. His name is Hal Elrod. Let me tell you a little bit about Hal. First off, he died at the age of 20. A car hit him from behind. It was a drunk driver going 70 miles per hour. His heart stopped beating for 6 minutes. He broke 11 bones and woke up after being in a coma for 6 days. Then a doctor had told him that he probably would never walk again. Oh, guess what? Hal was not only able to walk again, he ran a 52-mile ultra marathon and went on to become a Hall of Fame business achiever, an international keynote speaker, author, a grateful husband and father, all before the age of 30. Hal's on a mission to elevate the consciousness of humanity, one morning at a time. And as the author of one of the highest rated books in the world, The Miracle Morning, which has been translated into 27 languages and has 4,000 five-star reviews and practically been seen well over many, many countries and over 500,000 people. And really, it's really changed the world of how people look at their morning. He's doing exactly that. But unfortunately, tragedy struck again. In November of 2016, Hal nearly died again. His kidneys and lungs and heart were failing. And he was diagnosed with a rare and very aggressive form of leukemia. But after enduring this most difficult year of his life, battling cancer, Hal is now cancer-free and furthering his mission, creating some of the most empowering content with the most successful people in the world. And he's here today to give you the tools to elevate your consciousness one morning at a time. My buddy, the man, the myth, the legend, Hal Elrod. What's going on, brother? How are you?
John, normally I can't, people don't match my energy, but I don't know if I can match yours, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure and super grateful. I know you're writing another book coming out here. And so you're taking the time out to be on this podcast. Thank you so much. Let's dive right in.
You got it.
What I want to talk about, Hal, is let's talk about before the crash. Right? A lot of your stories out there and a lot of people know about it, and we'll dive into that. But I want to know what Hal was like before 20 years old. What is Hal like as a teenager and growing up?
Yeah, I was a class clown and a pretty mediocre kid in terms of I was never a star athlete. Like there's or star anything. There's people that you grow up with and you're like, oh man, they're good at everything they do, right? They get great grades. They're great at sports. I just want to make people laugh, and I was super ADD, so I didn't get good grades. I wasn't a star athlete. Wasn't super popular. Really kind of mediocre my whole life. And when I was 15, I started a business, though. That was where I went from things kind of got cool, kind of interesting, and went from being just very mediocre to I started a DJ business. So my dad helped me. I had a job at the grocery store. My parents owned the grocery store. I had a job there, and I convinced him to help me finance and sign for some DJ equipment. And we put like $1,000 of equipment on a card, bought the equipment, and I got started. And within a few weeks, I had a $100 an hour gig doing a $100 wedding. And then I got it up to $50 an hour, $75 an hour, and then $100 an hour. So as a sophomore in high school, I was making $100 an hour. Now, granted, I'm only working 4 hours 2 nights a week or whatever. I mean, I wasn't working 40 hours a week, but still, right? It's like I was making more than all my friends were working. Their 20-hour-a-week jobs, and I'd work 4 hours on a Friday. And it was playing music, and that really opened my eyes to two things. Number one is that that you can get paid doing something you love that doesn't feel like work. And number two is that if you're an entrepreneur, there's no ceiling on your income, that you're in charge of it. And so those carried me kind of through the rest of my life, and everything I do today still, largely in business revolves around the freedom to have those two components: do work that you love and not have a ceiling on your income, so that you can, impact your family and other people, as much as you want.
Man, I love that, because I like to hear what, before the shift. Now
Sure.
Let's talk about the shift. And was it 20 years old, right?
Yeah.
And tell me about that day. Tell me what you remember before the accident, and then kind of how everything unfolded.
Yeah, so I had about a year and a half before the accident, I had started selling Cutco cutlery. And within my first 10 days, I broke the company record for the most Cutco sold in 10 days. So I quickly kind of shot up, and I was asked to give a speech at a conference. I was 7 days old in the company, and they had me speaking in front of hundreds of people. And I'm like, this, I don't know. I'm a 19-year-old kid. I don't know how to speak, professionally or publicly. And then a year and a half later, I kept up that pace of sales. And so I was always asked to speak at events. And the night of my car accident, I gave a speech at a conference. And really that night, I remember, being at the event. It was a smaller, it was a divisional conference. There was like 40, maybe 60 sales reps there. That night, we went out to dinner after the conference, and it was probably about 11:30 at night. We left the restaurant, and I had my girlfriend at the time was in the passenger seat with me. I often don't tell her as part of the story because, she was okay. It wasn't a consequential part, and but yeah, so she was in the car with me and driving on the freeway. I don't remember my last memory was leaving the restaurant and getting on the freeway, and my buddy getting stuck at the red light behind me and going, he got stuck at the red light. Too bad for him. Ironically. And I don't remember the night, what happened after that, but essentially I was hit head on by a drunk driver at 70 miles an hour. I was in a Ford Mustang. He was in a Chevy full-size truck, and we both were traveling 70 miles an hour when we collided head on. And my car, luckily it wasn't a direct head on. I think it's almost impossible to survive if you hit directly, dead center into another car at that speed. His driver's side hit my driver's side. And so it sent my car spinning off of his, and the car behind me was where all the damage was done. My car spun sideways and to where they crashed into my driver's side door, directly into my door at roughly 70 miles an hour. So I always tell people, if you're listening, look over your left shoulder and imagine that a car is coming at you at 70 miles an hour and just crashes into your door. There's nothing except that little door to protect you. And the entire left side of my car was crushed into the left side of my body. As you mentioned in the intro, I broke 11 bones instantaneously, and I started bleeding to death. And it took an hour to get me out of the car. And when they did, I had lost so much blood that my heart stopped for about 6 minutes. And I spent 6 days in a coma after they revived me on the helicopter, the flight to the hospital. And when I woke up, they said I would never walk again, or probably never walk again. That was the prognosis. And I just made the decision. I said, there's only two possibilities. And I told my dad this. I said, either the doctors are right and I never walk again. And I said, Dad, I've already thought through that. If I'm in a wheelchair the rest of my life, I promise you, I don't want you and Mom to worry. I will be the happiest person that you've ever seen in a wheelchair. Because if I'm in a wheelchair either way, that's my choice, right? The wheelchair doesn't define my quality of life. It doesn't define my happiness or sense of purpose or well-being. I said, but I'm not betting on that option. I said, option number two is the doctors, they really don't, I don't think they can know for sure. So the option two is I might walk again. And I said, Dad, I've accepted the worst case scenario. I've accepted it. I'll be the happiest person if I am in a wheelchair, but I'm not counting on that. All my energy is going into what I want, which is to walk again. I'm visualizing it every day. I'm praying about it. I'm imagining it. I'm talking about it, on and on. And I said, until I'm proven otherwise, that's my decision, is that I'm going to walk again. There is no other option. It's what I call the miracle equation. That's like you mentioned, I'm writing a book. The new book that I am writing, it's due to the publisher in like 3 days. So I'm like crunch time. As soon as we're off the interview here, I'm going to back into the computer. But the book's called The Miracle Equation, and the miracle equation is something I created around that, like during that time. And it's made of it's very simple, deceivingly simple in its explanation, but much more rare and complex in its execution. And it's simply two decisions: unwavering faith and extraordinary effort. I will maintain unwavering faith that I can accomplish anything and everything I set my mind to, right? Like that's that first decision. Most people don't do that. Most people go, well, I have doubt and I have fear, and that runs their lives. And I have doubt and fear. It's just that you got to let the faith run your life. The faith overrides the fear, right? And the second decision is extraordinary effort. And if you look at any person in the history of humanity that's accomplished great things, from people that are world famous and made big shifts in our society, to unknown people or people that have beat medical miracles, if you will, they all had two things in common. Those were the decisions. They maintained unwavering faith that they could accomplish their goal, and they put forth extraordinary effort until they accomplished their goal, even though there were times where they felt like giving up. There were times where they weren't on track. There were times where maybe they hit a brick wall and it was like they had to completely change direction. But those that maintain unwavering faith and put forth extraordinary effort until, operative word being until, they achieve what they want, those are the few people in society that achieve anything and everything that it is that they want.
That's insane and incredible at the same time. You know, and Hal, I'm gonna tell you, the first time I heard that story, it was live at NAEA conference with Jake and Michael Reese.
Yeah.
You know, good friends of them, and we ran into each other at the conference. And I just remember hearing you up there and listening to your story and just saying, everybody needs to hear it. Everybody needs to hear this. And there's so many components on why they need to. In the book, The Miracle Morning, that it really breaks it all down. But I'm so excited that you've taken this Miracle Morning and you've really extended the series, I guess you could say, into so many different areas. And I appreciate you for that and being vulnerable, telling your story. What do you say to people that don't want to tell their story, man? Because there's a lot of people out there like me, I come from addiction. I was told I couldn't have kids. There's many things, and I'm super open with it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm super open with it because there's certain reasons why I am. What do you tell somebody that says, how do you tell your story about almost dying and going through this process? You have to be really vulnerable. How do you do it? What would you suggest telling them to do?
Yeah, so I think it's just a simple reframe. Look at why would we not want to tell our story, right? Fear of being judged, fear of me. For me, I actually have a fear of being judged for that I'm bragging. I really it's a real. I value humility. And for me, I feel like whenever I talk about myself, I'm like, man, are people thinking I'm like trying to impress them? Like, I really don't like that. And I had to get over that because I'm like, there's no way I'm going to impact people if I'm got all these hangups. So part of the reframe though is there's a great Robin Sharma quote. The author Robin Sharma said, when you're vulnerable with people, they fall in love with you. And it's so true. You think about when someone shares their story, their heart, their struggle, you're like, oh my gosh, I as a human being, the human being in us connects with the human being in another person. And usually when someone's telling you how great they are, you don't feel connected to that, right? Unless maybe you've achieved greatness and you're like, oh, that's awesome. I know what you mean. I remember my first million too, right? Maybe that's true. I don't know. But for the most part, if someone's like, man, I had to go through this and I felt these emotions and it was difficult, other people feel really connected to you. And so I think that if you reframe what it means to be vulnerable and what that does for you and for other people, it gives other people permission too to be vulnerable, right? When you're vulnerable, they're like, oh, wow, if they can share, then I can share, right? And you see that in relationships, right? Or even like new friendships where one person opens up and the other one's like, you know what? You told me that. I feel like there's this law of reciprocity that's engaged, right? Like I feel like I have something to get off my chest or something to tell you, right?
Yes.
So being vulnerable, people feel connected to you, they fall in love with you. And in business, it's very true in business, when you don't try to, and this is my quote, but when don't worry about trying to impress people, just figure out how you can add value to their lives. Right? Like we have this nature that, Landmark Forum teaches that like looking good is what we do. Why? Like everything we do is how do we look good for other people? And we do that, I don't know, unconsciously, consciously, we try to impress other people. And when years ago, I just stopped worrying about trying to impress people and I focused on how I could add value to their lives. And I go, you know what? I'd rather impress them because I help them so much. And then, right? Like that, if that impresses them, awesome,
Yeah.
right? If how much money I give to charity or how much I help, like if that impresses them, okay, cool, right? But I don't want to impress them by trying to appear perfect or better than them or superior or like I have my shit together or I got it all figured out, right? Like I finally had a wake up call one day. I'm like, that's not what people. That actually disconnects you from them. The more you try to impress people with how great you are, the more disconnected they feel from you. But the more you're open and real and vulnerable and authentic and you share just all of it, right? The more people feel connected. And so, yeah, I think it's a great strategy in business, and also a great strategy just across the board in connecting with, from one human being to another.
Yeah, absolutely. The old phrase, fake it till you make it. I'm just not a fan of that. I truly believe in being authentic and being yourself. And some people are going to love you. Some people are not going to love you. But in the end, you need to love yourself. And the only way to do that, and you could agree, I'm sure, is just be authentically you and in who you are and your relationships. So let's kind of rewind now. And I just wanted to bring that up because I think that's a big piece that people are always worried about telling their story. So
Sure.
you're in a hospital and you've created this amazing life for yourself and, super successful. How did you make that shift? Like, I know you talked about the things you were thinking about, but like physically actionable things, like what can people do to take a situation like you had where legit that was rock bottom at one point, I would assume. For most people, it definitely could be. How do you make that a foundation to live on? You have those two things you look at, but what did you do? Is there any processes you put into your life?
Yeah, well, the first is, and I guess it's mental, but it's crucial, and I call it the 5-minute rule. And I don't call it that. I learned the 5-minute rule when I was in my sales training, and that's what allowed me to overcome the car accident. If it wasn't for this lesson that I'll share right now, I don't know who I would have been or how I would have responded to it. It took me 5 minutes to accept being told I was never going to walk again and be like, okay, I'm at peace with it. And the 5-minute rule we learned in sales training in Cutco sales training was it's okay to, when things go wrong, and we were learning this in the context of business, like no sales and canceled orders and, rude customers and not reaching a sales goal, right? Things like that. That's the context we were learning. But my manager, Jesse, taught me that when things go wrong, there's no point in dwelling on it over an extended period of time, right? And he said, when something goes wrong, set your timer on your phone for 5 minutes, and you give yourself 5 minutes to feel bad about it. You can feel sorry for yourself. You can bitch, moan, complain, cry, vent, whatever you got to do. And then after 5 minutes is up, you take a deep breath and you say 3 very powerful words. Can't change it. And you're acknowledging that I can't go back in time and change the result. I can't change what already happened. So there's no value in spending another minute on wishing it didn't happen, on resisting it, on being upset about it. The only intelligent choice, and I would say we all, deem ourselves to be relatively intelligent, right? I mean, I'm not the smartest, but smart enough to go, okay, yeah, that makes sense. There's no value in dwelling on something I can't change for an extended period of time. So after that 5 minutes is up, that gives you time to feel it, be upset, punch a wall, whatever you got to do. And then you accept it. Though you say those 3 words, and then you focus all of your energy on what's in your control. And what I learned, I learned that lesson. And then through reading many texts, a lot of spiritual texts, over the last 20 years, I've expanded on that lesson and deepened my understanding of it many, many times over. And that is that every negative emotion that we've ever felt is self-created. It is self-created. Now, no one told us that. We don't normally think that. We think we're upset because of something. There's always something that we point to. If you ask anybody why they're upset, and upset being they could be sad, angry, depressed, hurt, whatever. You name an emotion that's difficult to deal with. You ask them why, they'll always point to something. Of course I'm upset. Look at what she said. Didn't you hear what she said? I'm angry. Of course I'm sad. Look at what I lost. Of course I'm hurt. Look at what's going on, the situation. And we think it's the thing, the situation, the circumstance, the other person. It never is. It's always our resistance to that reality. It's, I wish she didn't say that. I wish I didn't lose that. I wish this wasn't happening. I wish it happened differently. That wasn't what I was working toward. That wasn't my expectation. I was working hard toward this goal and didn't reach it, right? It's always our resistance to whatever reality is whatever is reality. And it's to the degree that we resist reality that we create emotional pain. So if it's like traffic, for example, traffic's my favorite example of how we create emotional pain. Now you get to work and you're all flustered. Some coworker goes, dude, what's wrong? Be like, oh my God, did you see traffic on the 5? It was terrible. This guy cut me off. And it's like, oh, so you think the traffic is why you're upset? Well, did you know there was a guy right next to you in the exact same traffic that was cut off by the exact same guy? And he was smiling and enjoying every moment because that was his choice. You were resisting the reality that was the traffic, and he was accepting of it. And the exact same traffic that you think is causing you to be upset, it wasn't the traffic. It was your resistance to the traffic. And when you learn that, and for me, the reason I was able to immediately be at peace with the car accident, and then the doctors thought I was in denial. Like I was so happy and upbeat, they thought I was delusional. They're like, this guy's brain damage is off the charts. Like, he is a mess, dude. Like, he's smiling all the we're saying you're not going to walk, and he's like, okay.
Yeah, put him in some padded walls.
Yeah, seriously. And what they didn't realize is that I had learned that lesson, that when you accept everything that's out, it's this way of being where it's unconditional acceptance of all things you can't change. And it doesn't mean you're happy when something goes wrong, but it's deeper than that. You're at peace with it. Happiness is an emotion. You can be happy in 1 second and get a phone call and it changes that. But when you're at peace, when you live in a state of unconditional acceptance of all things you can't change, past, present, and future, it's a neutral state of being where you're just at peace. And then you can choose the emotion that best serves you in any given situation because you're at peace enough to have that level of consciousness to make the choice and go, what emotion would serve me right now? Maybe it's gratitude. Maybe it's excitement. Maybe it's passion or determination or whatever. But I call that emotional invincibility. When you live with unconditional acceptance, you're emotionally invincible. And start with that 5-minute rule. Give yourself 5 minutes to feel it. But here's what happens. After a few weeks, 5 minutes feels too long. You'll set your timer on the phone for 5 minutes. And you're like, son of a bitch, I can't believe this happened. Then you pick up your phone and be like, all right, I got 4 minutes and 38 seconds left to be upset. And you'll set the phone down and pick it back up and go, well, this is stupid. Why don't I just get to work and start making progress in the next 5 minutes instead of sitting here stewing in it? There's no point. And we're stewing. We're hurting ourselves, creating emotional pain over things that happened 5 minutes, 5 months, 5 decades ago from our childhood. And we think it's the thing that we're focused on, that we're pointing to, that's causing the pain. It's never the thing. It's always our level of resistance to that thing, to that reality.
Guys, if you are not taking notes listening to this, you better go back and replay it because
play it again.
Bombs being dropped. The unconditional acceptance I love. And I want to tell you something. I thank you very much. And I'm grateful for you because when I heard you talk about the 5-minute rule on stage a few years back, man, it changed my life. Wow. So I personally want to say thank you. It changed my life. What really did though is change my relationship with my wife. And it's created a better understanding of my emotions, and I created my own rules around it as well, and fine-tuned it like you did with yours. And it has turned an angry person into somebody that is absolutely understanding of his emotions, not living in them, being in gratitude, and just moving on with it versus the guy who used to white knuckle. You know what I mean? Yeah. If you cut me off, I was that white knuckling guy. I don't care, either I run out of gas or you're pulling over. One of the two things that are happening. Dude, and I was that guy, and it just affected more people than I thought. And that 5-minute rule showed me that and pulled me back into understanding that the way you react, there's somebody that's also being affected by it, right? So thank you, Hal. I appreciate you.
John, do me a favor, dude.
Yes.
So I'm already thinking about the next book. This book's due in like 3 days. I'm already thinking about the next book, and I think it's going to be called Emotional Invincibility. And it's going to be about this concept we just talked about. So do me a favor, if you will, sit down and write out your story and email it to me. And there is a very, very, very good chance that it will make it into that book, man. And it's a powerful story. I'd love for you to share it. And share, the more you share, the better, because we can always cut it, right? So just the more you share that you think would be helpful. And it's not, you got as much time as you want, but yeah, make that happen and we'll get it in there.
I love it, man, and it's backed by many people seeing the anger too, and whether they're affected by it or not. I mean, there's stories of people like, he's crazy. It usually starts with the vein popping out of the head. That's usually what it starts with. So let's talk about the book that really went absolutely insane, and everybody I run into knows the book. Right? I have it sitting here, right here. The Miracle Morning. Let's get a little bit more in depth of what it is and what real value lies in this book.
Yeah, so The Miracle Morning, it was never a book title or a book idea. That's not how it started. It was in 2008 when the U.S. economy crashed. I think it was actually started in 7 and then 8. I crashed with it, and I had started a coaching business. I was coaching salespeople, and everybody in that industry that I was coaching, when the economy crashed, all of their clients kind of couldn't buy their product, and then my clients were like, we're not making any money, and then I lost over half my clients, over half my income. I had just bought my first house about a year and a half before, couldn't pay the mortgage. The bank took that, was taking that away. My body fat percentage tripled in 3 months because I canceled my gym membership, and I was like emotionally distraught. I was like in quicksand, it felt like. And to keep a long story short, a series of events led me to a quote from Jim Rohn. And Jim Rohn said, your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development. Because, and then he went on, there's a second part to the quote. He said, because success is something you attract by the person you become. And when I heard that quote, it just opened my eyes. I went, wait a minute, I'm not dedicating time every day to my personal development. I'm just like going into the office and grinding all day until I'm exhausted and then going, watch an hour TV, eating food and going to bed. That's my rinse and repeat. And I said, if I want to, here's how I quantified that. So what Jim says, your level of success won't exceed your level of personal development. Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, John, we can agree that we all want level 10 success in every area, right? Nobody's like, I don't want to be as successful as I can. I want to settle for mediocrity a little. No, we're like, I want level 10 money, health, relationships, finance, every area we want level 10. And what I realized hearing Jim's quote is I have to dedicate time to personal development so I can become a level 10 person, because my level of success is going to match my level of personal development. If I'm at a level 4 in terms of my personal development, which I define, by the way, your level of personal development is who you are in terms of your knowledge, your mental, physical, spiritual, emotional capacities, your habits, behaviors, right? It's your confidence, your belief in yourself, your clarity, like just who you are as a person. That's your level of personal development. If you're at a 4 on a scale of 1 to 10, your success is probably hovering right around a 4. If you grow yourself to a 6, you'll see your success will meet you where you are. And so I've got to create like the most extraordinary personal development ritual known to, man or woman in the history of humanity. I was tired of where I was at. It was in so much pain and mental anguish, just struggling financially and so on and so forth. And so I went online and I Googled best personal development practices and then fill in the blank. I did like of successful people, of CEOs, of millionaires, of right on and on, of professional athletes, of world champions, on and on. And I was making a list of practices as I'm reading these articles, trying to come up with the one that would be the best personal development practice. And when all was said and done, I had a list of 6 practices. And I went, okay, which of these is the best? And I went back and I'm reading the articles, trying to figure it out. And I was banging my head against the wall going, none is better than the other. It just depends on who you ask. Like this millionaire says you got to meditate. This billionaire says, no, it's about daily exercise in the morning. This person says, no, it's you got to journal. And so I'm almost about to give up. And then it hits me. I go, wait a minute. I was thinking about creating the ultimate personal development ritual. What if I did all of these? What if I woke up tomorrow and I did the 6 most timeless, proven personal development practices in the history of humanity that the world's most successful people in all walks of life, in all industries, have been swearing by one of, if not all of these 6 practices for centuries. It's literally centuries, right? None of them were new. Meditation wasn't new. It was new to me, but it wasn't new. And so that was the epiphany that I went, okay, I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning an hour earlier, which was the hardest part because I'm like, I'm not a morning person. So then I Googled how to beat the snooze button, how to wake up early. And I kind of compiled like this strategy for just for get my ass out of bed, right? Based on the best of what I was reading as well. I'm like, all right, I got the best strategy here for how to wake up in the morning and beat the snooze button. I've got the 6 best personal development practices in the history of humanity. I'm going to give this a shot. I woke up the next morning. I did all 6. I sucked at all of them. Like it was my first time meditating. I didn't know how to do it. Affirmations felt cheesy. Like all this stuff was weird to me, but even sucking it up for that hour, I felt incredible. My confidence, the experience I had was, wait a minute. Even though my bank account was negative, my outer world was still a mess. Internally, the way I felt is I went, if I start every day like with this much clarity and confidence and learning something new every day and affirming what's possible for me and what I need to do to get it, it's only a matter of time before I turn my situation around. And I was thinking 6 to 12 months. Thinking like the compound effect of this daily will eventually, gradually, slowly, but surely transform me into that level 10 person. I never imagined it would happen as fast as it did. And that's what led to the name, by the way, Miracle Morning. I'll get to that in a second. But it was less than 2 months of doing this morning practice, these 6 practices. Less than 2 months, I more than doubled my income. Now, I still lost my house. That ship had already sailed, right? But I had more than doubled my income. So I could get my head above water. I went from being in the worst shape of my life physically, where I hadn't exercised one time, even once in 6 months. I committed to run a 52-mile ultra marathon. I had never run before. I hated running, and that's why. Ironically, that's why I did it. I thought, who would I have to? If I committed to do this publicly, like to raise money for a charity, which is what I did. I thought the person I'd have to become. I've never met that guy, but I want to meet that guy. I want to become that guy. Holy crap. Right.
Exciting.
That was why I committed to it. And I completed it, quite a bit later, 6 months later. And my depression went away within a matter of days because I felt so inspired. And because my life changed so quickly, I started writing it in my schedule. It felt like a miracle. So I'm like, dude, I told my wife, I'm calling this my miracle morning, but it was not on my radar that it would be a book. And to wrap up the story, I taught it to the few coaching clients that I had left. And again, I had doubled my coaching clients. So it's kind of back to where I was before. I started teaching it to my coaching clients, and every single one of them, I don't think one person did not tell me, Hal, I'm not a morning person, but I'll give it a shot. You're my coach. I'll give it a shot. And every single one of them had very similar, call it miraculous results, where, they all had their best week in sales. They started running again. They were reading more books than ever. They were meditating for the first time in their life, on and on. And that was when the light bulb went off for it being a book. I'm like, wait a minute. If this changed my life and I was not a morning person, and this changed every coaching client that I'm teaching it to that's doing it, every single one of their lives, and they weren't morning people, that to me is evidence, all I need, that this could change millions and millions and millions and millions of people's lives who have never been a morning person their entire life, by teaching them how to start their day in an optimum way. Because if you win the morning, you start the day as the person that you need to be to win the day. And you start to see your productivity increase. You start to see it affect every area of your life, as you know from personal experience, right? Yep. And so that's the miracle morning. And then you said it in the bio, right? Now, when I wrote it, it was like, I hope this changes a few lives. I did not envision 31 translations now. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We just crossed 1 million copies sold of the book, which is like, just craziness to me. So, so if you're listening to this and you're like, whether you are a morning person or you're like, you've never been a morning person, the majority of our readers, we surveyed the audience once, 72% said they had never in their entire life been able to beat that snooze button and be a morning person until they read The Miracle Morning. So it wasn't like morning people that were reading the book. That was only 18%. 72% said they had never been a morning person, and they're like, all right, my friend says I got to give it a try. John Maroney says I got to try it. I'll give it a shot or whatever. So anyway, so that's The Miracle Morning in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I love it. And there's two things I want to say. One is, you said something more important than anything. You talked about your money increasing and everything, but you said it actually helped with your depression.
Yeah.
That's what I want people to hear. I feel like money is going to be the side effect, which is a beneficial side effect to the other things that's going to help. But people want to go ahead and they want to pop pills and do this and do that to help with their depression or anxiety. When if you take Hal's book and just read it and commit for 60 days, see if that helps. That's
even
all
30 days. Even 30 days. At the end of the book's the 30-day challenge. That's enough.
Yeah. And because John Marone is sitting here, can tell you that it works, man. Because I used to say the same thing, but then what I realized is mornings don't suck. I sucked at mornings.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, man.
I just needed something to help
steal that, John. I like that. Mornings don't suck. I sucked at mornings.
Royalties.
All right, fair.
And I appreciate you writing a book, and so do 1 million people that are reading it. And the most important thing, it's not 1 million sold. It's the lives that 1 million represents, and the lives in their lives and their future and their family. So you are an amazing human being. A few more questions, and I'll let you get back to writing your book.
Yeah.
So negative influences. This is just kind of a quick one. Do you use the 5-minute rule when there's a negative influence around you? Like, how do you kind of put that shield up and block out all negativity? Because in the world we live in now, man, it's just like every angle. What's your process on getting rid of all the negative influences?
I mean, I think that for me, I don't watch the news. I don't, so I don't expose myself to negativity too much. And I'm pretty shielded in who I spend time with. My circle of influence, I make sure that they're the people that I aspire to be like,
Yep.
And then also I think leading by example. I try to be such a shining light of positivity, if you will, at the risk of sounding cheesy. But so that I feel like when you do that, you bring out the best in others, right? So and part of that is seeing the best in others, right? Don't see people as they are, see them as they could be, see them as at their full potential, right? We all, I think you mentioned, I know you mentioned the podcast I recently did on to stop judging people.
So good.
Yeah, but the idea is that, we judge other people and we condemn other people based on what they say and do. But and while it may be true that actions speak louder than words, neither of those truly reveal a person's soul, because we've all said things and done things that aren't a reflection of our character, that don't reflect our highest values. They just came out of emotion or out of the moment, or right because we weren't thinking, or we were thinking not in alignment with our values of what we wanted to get something quick or whatever. And the biggest lesson from that podcast, right, was that we really have no basis to judge another human being, because there is, and listen to this, there's no, you and I and John, none of us, we literally have no way of knowing that if we had lived another person's life, the person that we're judging or condemning, or, they're telling them they're bad, that we'd be exactly the same. It's easy to sit from our throne and go, I would never do that, right? Yeah, I would never do that. It's like, yeah, you had a good mom and dad, and or you have a moral compass that they didn't have instilled in their life, or you know what I mean? Like, you would never do that. But if you lived their life, you might do that. You'd probably do that. In fact, the odds are, if you were raised by their parents and you had their brain, which is why they're making the choice they're making to say what they're saying or do it, right? It's because they got their brain. If you had their brain, you would say the same thing, right? Yeah. So stop judging, man. And I think that, this world needs more unconditional love, and we just got to love each other and come from a place of non-judgment and a place of unconditional acceptance, not just of circumstances, but of people, right? Yeah, man, anyway, so I'm on my soapbox, but I'll turn it back over to you.
And I'm glad you brought it up, because I know we're running out of time. But guys, you need to go listen to Hal's podcast. We'll talk about it at the end here. But he has this one episode about how we judge people, and he broke it down very quickly here. But you need to go listen to that one, and it's one of my favorite podcasts of all time. I'm not gonna lie, and I appreciate you for coming out with it and being vulnerable with it, and really just being honest with it. So every person that you know and I know, we're gonna go up to the white pearly gates one day, right? We're gonna see the man, the woman, whatever you believe in, and God Himself is gonna say something to you. Hal, what do you want him or her to say to you?
I'm proud of you. Nice work. I think I try to live my life in alignment with my values, which, spirituality is a part of that for sure. And, I think that, all the people, and I try to look at every person on the planet as a relative, right? Like, I feel like we're all related. We're part of the human race. I don't care if we have the same last name or, born into the same family. Like, to me, I'm just as related to someone I've never met in Africa. Not just as related, but I'm related, somewhere across the world as a human being. So to me, there's that love for all people, because I feel like we're all part of the same family. And so I'm just, my life is dedicated to try to help other people fulfill their potential. And that's where, for me, the only way to do that, and I'll say this. This is how I close out my keynote speeches, actually. So here you're getting the last words out of my mouth when I give a keynote speech. I say,
get on the edge of your seat, people. Let's go.
On the edge of your seat. That I believe that the greatest gift that we can give to other people, the people that we love and the people that we lead, is to live to our full potential. Because only then can we help them live to their full potential, right? Only once we understand what it looks like and what it feels like and what you have to overcome and what you have to go through to live to your full potential, then you can help your kids do it. You can help your spouse do it. You can help your friends do it. You can help your colleagues or your employees, or, you know what I mean? Like, so I think that alone is for us to wake up every day. And that's what the miracle morning is to me. It's not about waking up, earlier or doing a few things in the morning. Like, this is, how do you become the level 10 ASAP, so that you can impact not only your results and reach your goals and create the life of your dreams, but that ripple effect, that you can do it for other people. And you mentioned in my introduction that, my mission is to elevate the consciousness of humanity, one morning, one person, if you will, at a time. And to me, that's how we do it. As each of us wake up to our full potential, then everyone around us is affected by that in a positive way. And then boom, another one, all of a sudden they start waking up to their full potential. And then everybody around them is affected. And literally it all starts with you and me and John, right? And one person at a time, we can truly elevate the consciousness of humanity.
Yes. Work on you and work on others alongside of it. I could not agree more. I'm going to give you 4 quick words. I want you to top of your head, tell me what you think, whether it could be a word back or it could be Just whatever pops in your mind. You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So first word is fear.
We all got it.
Failure.
It's the best teacher.
Success.
Everybody has their own definition.
Hustle.
It's overrated.
I agree. Yeah, baby. Yes, yes, yes. All right. Perfect. This is the time of the show where if you guys have not been taking notes, now is the time. This whole show is built off of being better today than you were yesterday. And this is where Hal is going to give you 3 actionable things to go ahead and implement as soon as this podcast ends and be better today than you were yesterday. So Hal, 3 things that everybody listening, everybody watching can implement immediately, any area of their life, to truly be better today than they were yesterday and start designing the life they have always wanted to live.
Yeah. Number 1 is set your alarm clock back 30 minutes. And a bonus caveat to that is move it across the room. That's one of the tips, by the way, that I learned on how to beat the snooze button is if your alarm clock is within arm's reach in the morning, you're going to snooze over and over and over. If it's across the room, in the bathroom or whatever, and you have to get out of bed to turn it off, you're upright, now you're awake. So that's the first tip. Move your alarm clock back 30 minutes and actually move the alarm clock. Keep it across the room, not on your bedside table. Number 2, commit to one of the savers in the morning during those 30 minutes. Now, you don't know what the savers are. We didn't go over those, so I'm going to run through them real quick. The S is for silence. That's your meditation or your prayer time. The A is for affirmations. The V is for visualization. The E is for exercise. The R is for reading. And the final S is for scribing, which is a fancy word for writing or journaling. So those are the 6 most timeless personal development practices of, in the history of humanity. Any one of those will change your life. Robert Kiyosaki, author Rich Dad Poor Dad, when he interviewed me, said the reason he feels like the Miracle Morning is so life-changing, he's read the book 3 times, at least that was years ago, he'd read it 3 times. He does the Miracle Morning every day, does the savers, and he says that any one of the savers will change your life, and that's why the Miracle Morning changed your life so fast, because you're doing all 6 of them. If you do 1 of them, it'll change your life. You do 2 of them, you're going to accelerate that path. The 3 of them, you're going to really be on a rocket ship. 6 of them, he said, it's not even fair, right? It's an unfair advantage. And so do one of the savers. And a lot of people, if you haven't read the Miracle Morning, they'll just do the R, right? They're like, all right, well, I'm going to wake up 30 minutes earlier. I'm going to read the Miracle Morning. And then when I get to the S in savers, then I'll implement it. Then when I get to the A, I'll implement that, right? So you're going to add one thing at a time. And then the last action step, and this is an invitation. It's optional, of course, but I'm inviting everybody to join the Miracle Morning community on Facebook. It's a Facebook group with 170-some thousand members, all organic. I don't run Facebook ads. It's all people that have read the book and come into the group. But here's the reason is it's the most supportive online community that I've ever seen. The people in that group, they're all inspired, they're like-minded, and they are truly there for each other. It's the most selfless group I've ever seen. People will come in and be like, hey, I'm having a problem, and they'll get dozens and sometimes hundreds of people commenting, trying to help them. It's incredible. So check that out, the Miracle Morning community on Facebook. So there's 3.
Yes, bombs have been dropped. I am a part of that group, by the way. And something I say about the snooze, I say if you hit the snooze, you're guaranteed to lose.
Boom, there you go.
So
that's it.
I'm with you on that one, man. And these 3 guys are, especially number 2. I mean, savers, we didn't get to go over because of time, but read the book, implement. Take the information and then create some kind of implementation off of it. Hal, thank you so much. Beyond grateful and honored for you to be on. But tell everybody where they could find you, what's coming up for Hal, and the floor is yours, brother.
Yeah, you can find me at Hal Elrod, HALELROD.com, or miraclemorning.com. Those are my main 2 websites. And then coming up, man, we had 2 new books come out a couple months ago. We had the Miracle Morning, or Miracle Morning Millionaires, and the Miracle Morning for Addiction Recovery. With Joe. One was with Joe Polish. The addiction book was with Joe Polish and Anna David. The other one was with David Osborne, self-made multimillionaire. And then we have the Miracle Morning movie. The documentary comes out later this year. I don't have an exact release date, but that's we're in final. It's we're figuring out distribution right now. And then last but not least, I always forget to promote this. This is so silly of me. I do a live event once a year. Everybody, you should check this out. John, you should come, man. You'd love it.
Yes.
The website is bestyeareverlive.com, bestyeareverlive.com. The event's called the Best Year Ever Blueprint. And just check out the website. It's unlike any other event out there. It's, and every event probably says that, but it's not just listening to speakers for 3 days, taking 10 pages of notes. It's totally experiential, highly immersive. And again, you're with members of that Miracle Morning community that fly in from around the world to be there. And again, you've never been part of an audience that is so vulnerable, so authentic, so loving and supportive of each other. It's really a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So that's it, man.
When is the event again?
December 7th through 9th, 2018.
Boom. It's coming up. It's coming up soon. I'll tell you what, man. I actually heard about this on your podcast, and I was like, I need to ask him. Just ask him, and then I'll go ahead and book the tickets. It's going to be a phenomenal event. I love, like what you said, taking 10 pages of notes versus creating an experience for these people is what you're doing. And that sticks, right? An experience that sticks with things that they can take action on. Any last words you want to leave everybody listening or watching?
Love the life you have while you create the life of your dreams. That's kind of a fundamental way of living for me. Is most people, they're doing one or the other, right? Like they don't love their life because they think I've got to create my dreams first. And then so many celebrities, when they create the life of their dreams, they turn to drugs and alcohol because they didn't learn how to be happy along the way. Love yourself and love your life as you are right now, even though you're not perfect. And at the same time, you are perfect, right? And I'm not perfect, and we all have that dichotomy. But yeah, love the life you have now unconditionally, beginning with yourself, and wake up every day with a healthy sense of urgency. While you're at peace with where you are, maintain that healthy sense of urgency to make progress towards the life that you ultimately want to live.
Man, I cannot thank you enough. And I'm sorry to my editors who have to edit this because I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. I was probably in their microphone because everything you go over, man, I absolutely love and I agree with. You're a game changer. You're a life changer, a life-altering, value-adding human. And I appreciate you jumping on the show and everything you do. And I appreciate you for being you. Glad we get to connect and build a long-lasting, value-adding relationship. It's going to be a fun ride. But guys, make sure you go follow Hal. Make sure you get the tickets to his event. Make sure you go get the book. Stop waiting. As soon as this is over, make sure you do it. Don't let the law of diminishing intent creep its way in, which is the longer you wait to do something, the less likely you are to do it. So block off the next 10 minutes when you're all done here and go follow Hal, get his book, sign up for his event, and I'm going to see you at his event. And if you have any questions, I'm sure he's willing to answer them for you. So reach on out and join that Facebook community because it is great. But make sure you guys follow me as well at Real John Marone or johnmarone.com. And don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and write a review. Not about me, write a review about something Hal said today that maybe gave you an aha, help you make that shift, really gave you a breakthrough. Write a review on it. And then most importantly, the most important part, share this out. Please don't be selfish. Share this out to whoever you think could use this episode in their daily life to really start creating the ultimate version themselves. Send it out, write a review, like, subscribe, follow Hal, follow me, and make sure no matter what you do, you take at least one of the things he talked about and implement it today so you can be better today than you were yesterday. But until then, guys, we'll see you next Tuesday. Keep creating the ultimate version of you. Have a good one, guys.